Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times, a Prancing Pony podcast production. I'm the Man of the West, and it's time to get week 79 underway with another Middle-earth Map Monday. Now, last week we moved further into Rohan with the Three Hunters, exploring the East Emnet Downs and looking at the wold from far away. Today, we're heading towards Fangorn Forest itself. Now, I know I said that we would be exploring Rohan for the next several weeks, and Fangorn isn't Rohan, but Fangorn is where the Three Hunters go first, so we're going to go there too. Initially, though, just to the eaves of the forest, as we remain in Chapter 2, The Three Hunters, right after they left the company of Éomer and the Riders. Before long, they came to the borders of the Entwash, and there they met the other trail of which Éomer had spoken, coming down from the east out of the wold. And then after dismounting to study the signs of the trail, they continue. As they rode forward, the day was overcast. Low gray clouds came over the wold, and that would be to their right, to the north and northeast. A mist shrouded the sun. Ever nearer, the tree-clad slopes of Fangorn loomed, slowly darkling as the sun went west. They saw no sign of any trail to right or left, but here and there they passed single orcs, fallen in their tracks as they ran, with gray-feathered arrows sticking in back or throat. At last, as the afternoon was waning, they came to the eaves of the forest, and in an open glade among the first trees, they found the place of the great burning. The ashes were still hot and smoking. So they've arrived near the southeastern corner of Fangorn. The forest itself goes from north of the Limelight all the way to south of the Entwash, from the Misty Mountains east about halfway to the Anduin. And from Tolkien's maps, it appears to be about 3 or 4 times the size of Lorien to its north, and more than 6 times as large as the Old Forest between the Shire and the Barrow Downs. Now, Fangorn has 2 rivers going through it, both with their sources in the Misty Mountains to the forest's west. The Limelight is the northern of those rivers, and the Ondlo, or the Entwash, is the southern one. It leaves the forest at its southeast corner and then turns due south a little bit after that, as we saw last week, with East Emnet Downs on one side and the Entwash on the other as the Three Hunters went north. But Fangorn is no ordinary forest. Aragorn explains, "We are on the very edge of Fangorn, and it is perilous to touch the trees of that wood, it is said." Later, after Gimli got a fire going, we get an interesting incident with a tree. The 3 companions drew close to it and sat together, shrouding the light with their hooded forms. Legolas looked up at the boughs of the tree reaching out above them. "Look," he said, "the tree is glad of the fire." It may have been that the dancing shadows tricked their eyes, but certainly to each of the companions the boughs appeared to be bending this way and that, so as to come above the flames, while the upper branches were stooping down. The brown leaves now stood out stiff and rubbed together like many cold, cracked hands, taking comfort in the warmth. There was a silence, for suddenly the dark and unknown forest so near at hand made itself felt as a great brooding presence, full of secret purpose. Now, as they discuss the alleged dangers of the forest, Legolas acknowledges, "Look, I haven't heard anything about this forest back home, just songs about the Onodrim, the Ents, and how they used to live here. It's an old place," he says. And Aragorn confirms, "Yes, it is old as the forest by the Barrow Downs, and it is far greater. Elrond says that the two are akin, the last strongholds of the mighty woods of the elder days, in which the firstborn roamed, while men still slept." And indeed, it is the last stronghold. Elrond says at the council, "Of the old forest many tales have been told. All that now remains is but an outlier of its northern march. Time was when a squirrel could go from tree to tree, from what is now the Shire to Dunland, west of Isengard." And then, of course, Fangorn was once connected to Lorien, as we learn in the history of Galadriel and Celeborn. Of old, the Galadhrim had claimed to govern the woods as far as the falls in the Silverlode where Frodo was bathed. Southward, it had extended far beyond the Silverlode into more open woodland of smaller trees that merged into Fangorn Forest, though the heart of the realm had always been in the angle between Silverlode and Anduin, where Caras Galadhon stood. There were no visible borders between Lorien and Fangorn, but neither the Ents nor the Galadhrim ever passed them, for legend reported that Fangorn himself had met the king of the Galadhrim in ancient days, and Fangorn had said, "I know mine, and you know yours." Let neither side molest what is the other's. But if an elf should wish to walk in my land for his pleasure, he will be welcome. And if an ent should be seen in your land, fear no evil." Long years had passed, however, since ent or elf had set foot in the other land. But back to this day, the three hunters have their encounter with Saruman, and the horses are scared off. The night passes, and Tolkien leaves them alone for 2 chapters as we return to the story of Merry and Pippin. But when we get back to the 3 hunters, Aragorn searches for and finds signs of Merry and Pippin, concluding that one at least of our friends escaped. It is our task to find him and help him before we return to Rohan. We must not be daunted by Fangorn, since need drove him into that dark place. And we'll get their take on the forest before wrapping up. "I do not think the wood feels evil, whatever tales may say," said Legolas. He stood under the eaves of the forest, stooping forward as if he were listening and peering with wide eyes into the shadows. "No, it is not evil. Or what evil is in it is far away. I catch only the faintest echoes of dark places where the hearts of the trees are black. There is no malice near us, but there is watchfulness and anger." "Well, it has no cause to be angry with me," said Gimli. "I have done it no harm." "That is just as well," said Legolas. "But nonetheless, it has suffered harm. There is something happening inside, or going to happen. Do you not feel the tenseness? It takes my breath away." "I fear the air is stuffy," said the dwarf. "This wood is lighter than Mirkwood, but it is musty and shabby." "It is old, very old," said the elf. "So old that almost I feel young again, as I have not felt since I journeyed with you children. It is old and full of memory. I could have been happy here if I had come in days of peace." Well, if we visit Fangorn again in days of peace or otherwise, it will be through the eyes of Merry and Pippin. But for now, folks, that wraps it up for Middle-earth Map Monday. Join me next week as the 3 hunters reunite with a White Rider and journey towards the capital of Rohan, Edoras, and the hall of its kings, Meduseld. Now, one of these series, I'll get back to Mailbag Mondays, so if you have any questions, be sure to email them to barliman@theprancingponypodcast.com, and be sure to let Barliman know the question is for today's Tolkien Times. To those of you who support the TTT on Patreon, thank you. Your support gives me the ability to invest the time and resources into writing and researching and recording these episodes. If you're not yet supporting the show, please visit patreon.com/Tolkien Times. You can join the TTT Content Council to help me decide what I'm going to talk about each series. Get a bonus episode every week and a whole lot more. And then join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times for more Turin Bar Tuesday. Podcast listeners, please be sure to subscribe to the TTT in your podcast apps. For those on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel here to get all of the Prancing Pony podcast productions, including my new streaming project, PPP Plays. And be sure you're following @PrancingPonyPod on all your social media. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.